My name is Sydney Mitchell, and at 11 years old, I learned that food was a luxury. That July, my parents announced they were going to Europe for a month: Paris, Rome, Santorini. They placed two $10 bills and a credit card on the kitchen table, told me it was for emergencies, then dragged their suitcases out the door without looking back. I didn't know the card had never been activated. I also didn't know that 30 days later, when they returned and threw a party to show off their European vacation photos to 40 guests, the police would walk into our living room. But that's the ending. Let me tell you how it started. From the day they left, and the door closed behind me. The Mitchell family lived in a two-story house in suburban Denver. The front lawn was perfectly trimmed. Two cars sat in the garage, a white SUV for Mom, a black sedan for Dad. Everything was beautiful. Everything was in its place. My mother, Diane Mitchell, had 12,000 followers on Instagram. She posted family photos every week: Sunday dinners, weekend getaways, Christmas trees. "Blessed," she'd write. "So grateful for my little family." But if you looked closely, you'd notice something. I was rarely in those photos. My father, Greg Mitchell, worked long hours at an insurance company. He came home at 7, ate dinner, watched the news, went to bed. When Mom said something, he nodded. When Mom decided something, he agreed. He wasn't a bad person, he just wasn't present. I'd learned to take care of myself early, making my own breakfast since I was 8, walking to school alone, signing permission slips when Mom forgot. She called me the quiet one in front of guests. "Sydney doesn't need much attention," she'd say with a light laugh. "She likes being alone. Right, sweetheart?" She never waited for an answer. I would nod. Because if I didn't, Mom would sigh like I'd just ruined her entire day. I was used to being invisible. I thought it was normal. I thought every kid existed on the margins of their parents' lives, trying not to be a bother, trying to be good enough to be loved. But I never thought they would actually disappear. 2 weeks before they left, Mom called me downstairs. She was sitting on the couch, laptop open, the screen showing a flight booking website. Dad stood by the window, staring at the yard, saying nothing. "Sydney," Mom said, her voice light as if announcing what's for dinner. "Your father and I need a break. A month in Europe. Paris, Rome, Greece. You're 11 now. Old enough to stay home." I stood frozen. "Who will I stay with?" I asked. Mom didn't look up. "You'll stay alone. What's so hard about that?" "But a whole month?" "Sydney." Her voice sharpened. "Don't be dramatic. You know how to take care of yourself. I've taught you everything." I looked at Dad. He was still facing the window, his back to me. "Can Grandma come stay?" I asked. "Or Aunt Ruth?" "Grandma's busy." Mom cut me off. "And Ruth." She paused, lips pressed tight. "You know I don't speak to her." I didn't know why Mom hated Aunt Ruth. I only knew she hadn't been allowed in our house for 5 years. Mom stood up, pulled two $10 bills and a silver plastic card from her purse. She placed them on the table in front of me. $20 for snacks if you need them, and this card is for emergencies. She looked at me, eyes cold. "Don't use it unless the house is on fire. Understand?" I nodded. "Good." She turned back to her laptop. "Flight's Monday morning. We'll be back in exactly 1 month." I picked up the money and the card, walked upstairs. I didn't know that credit card had never been activated. Monday morning, I stood at the door and watched them leave. Mom wore a floral dress, hair freshly done, pulling a brown Louis Vuitton suitcase. Dad carried 2 bags, loading them into the Uber waiting at the curb. "Remember to lock up," Mom said without turning around. "Don't bother anyone, and remember, you're old enough now." They got in the car. The car pulled away, disappeared around the corner. I stood at the door for 5 more minutes, as if they might come back and say it was all a joke. They didn't come back. That first night, the house was so quiet I could hear the refrigerator humming, the clock on the wall, the wind outside the window. I lay in bed, eyes open, staring at the ceiling until 3 in the morning. The next morning, I opened the refrigerator, nearly empty. Half a carton of milk, 4 eggs, a loaf of bread 2 days past its expiration date, some jars of tomato sauce, no meat, no vegetables, nothing that could be called a meal. I counted my money. 2 $10 bills. $20. I did the math. 20 divided by 30 days. 66 cents a day. Maybe if I just eat less, I told myself. I pulled out the credit card, tried to order pizza online, entered the card number, hit confirm. Transaction declined. I tried again. Declined. I called the hotline printed on the back of the card, followed the automated prompts. This card is not activated. Please contact your bank for assistance. I looked at the 2 $10 bills on the table. That was all I had. And my parents were in Paris. Day 3, I walked to the grocery store down the street. I stood in the aisle, calculating every cent. Ramen noodles, 79 cents a pack. White bread, $1.29. Peanut butter, $2.99. I bought 6 packs of ramen and a loaf of bread with my first $10. Got back $2.62 in change. The cashier looked at me. Shopping alone, sweetie. My mom's waiting in the car, I lied. Back home, I rationed the ramen. 1 pack split into 2 meals. Half a pack with hot water for breakfast, the other half for dinner. Day 5, I tried calling Mom. 3 rings. 4. 5. Hello? Her voice, distant, music playing in the background. Mom, the credit card doesn't work. I don't have money for food. Sydney, she sighed. You're being dramatic again. You have $20. You can eat less. I'm at a restaurant. Stop calling. But Mom... Click. She hung up. I sat down on the kitchen floor, back against the empty refrigerator, and cried. That night, I opened Mom's Instagram. New post. Mom standing in front of the Eiffel Tower, beaming, holding a glass of champagne. Caption. Paris, je t'aime, living my best life. 123 likes. 15 comments. So gorgeous. You deserve this. Goals. I stared at that photo for a long time. Then I grabbed the old iPad Mom had given me last month. The one she didn't need after buying a new one. I opened the camera. Hit record. Today is day 5, I said, voice shaking. Mom posted a photo from a Michelin star restaurant. I ate half a pack of ramen. I didn't know then that someone was watching. Just not in the way I expected. Day 7, Mr. Harold knocked on my door. Harold Jensen lived in the blue house next to ours. 70 years old. Widower. Lived alone with an old cat named Whiskers. He'd wave at me when I walked to school, but we'd never really talked. I opened the door, trying to look normal. Hey there, kiddo, Mr. Harold said, looking me up and down. I noticed your parents' cars haven't been around for a few days. Everything okay? Yes, sir. They're on a business trip. Business trip? He raised an eyebrow. Who's watching you? I wanted to lie, but I was too tired, too hungry. My lips were cracked, my face pale, and I knew he could see it all. I'm fine, I said, but my voice trembled. Mr. Harold was quiet for a moment. Then he asked gently, Have you eaten today, sweetheart? I swallowed. Yes, I have. Would you like to come over for dinner? I made too much. Hate to see it go to waste. I knew he was lying. He lived alone. But I was too hungry to refuse. That evening, I sat at Mr. Harold's kitchen table and ate spaghetti like I'd never eaten before. He didn't say anything, just sat across from me, watching with an expression I didn't understand then. After dinner, he asked, Where are your parents, really? And I told him, Everything. Europe. 1 month. $20. The card that didn't work. Mr. Harold was silent for a long time. "Do you need me to call someone?" he asked. "The police? A relative?" "No," I almost shouted. "Please don't. My mom said if I bother anyone, she'll—" I didn't finish. But Mr. Harold understood. He sighed. "All right, I won't call anyone, but I'm going to bring you food every day. And if you ever need to document anything, you write it down. Sometimes evidence is what protects you." Mr. Harold kept his silence for 10 more days, until silence was no longer an option. Week 2, summer school started. Mom had signed me up months ago, not because she wanted me to learn, but because she didn't want me lounging around the house. Now I understood. She needed me somewhere, so no one would ask why I was home alone. First day, I arrived late. Clothes wrinkled. I didn't know how to use the washing machine. Hair tangled. No one to help me brush it. Dark circles under my eyes. I still couldn't sleep. Mrs. Patterson, my homeroom teacher, watched me walk in. "Sydney, are you feeling all right?" "Yes, ma'am." She didn't say anything else, but I felt her eyes on me all through class. Day 3 at school, I nearly fainted during math. Everything started spinning. The blackboard blurred. I gripped my desk, but my legs had no strength left. "Sydney!" Mrs. Patterson's voice. When I woke up, I was lying on the nurse's office bed. The school nurse was looking at me, worried. "Did you eat breakfast this morning?" she asked. "Yes, I did. Half a pack of ramen. 6 hours ago." The nurse put me on a scale. Then she looked at the number, frowning. "You've lost 9 pounds in 2 weeks," she said. "Where are your parents?" Silence. "Sydney?" Her voice softened. "Who's taking care of you?" I looked down at my hands, thin, pale. No one. The nurse and Mrs. Patterson exchanged a look. Mrs. Patterson sat down beside me, her voice gentle but serious. "You don't have to say anything right now. But I need you to know, I'm not going to pretend I don't see what I see." I didn't cry. I'd forgotten how. But for the first time in 2 weeks, I felt like someone actually saw me. That night, Mom called. I was sitting in the kitchen, eating the rice Mr. Harold had brought over when my phone buzzed. International number. "Hello?" "Sydney." Mom's voice cut like a blade. "I heard the school called. What did you tell them?" "I didn't—" "Shut up." She cut me off. "I'm in Santorini, having dinner with your father, and I have to take a call from the school saying you have health concerns. Do you know how embarrassed I am?" I swallowed the rice. It stuck in my throat. "Mom, I'm hungry." "You're being dramatic again." She was shouting now. "You have $20. You have food in the refrigerator. You have everything. And you still find ways to bother me? The credit card doesn't work." "Then don't use it, I told you. Emergencies only, house on fire only." I went silent. "Sydney, listen to me." Her voice dropped, colder now. "If you tell anyone anything, the school, the neighbors, anyone, I will send you to boarding school when I get back. You won't live at home anymore. You won't see anyone you know. Understand?" Silence. "Sydney, understand?" "Yes." "Good." I heard Dad say something in the background, but he didn't take the phone. Didn't ask if I was okay. "Don't call again. I'm trying to relax." Click. I set the phone down. My hands were shaking. I opened Mom's Instagram. New photo. Mom and Dad in front of a Santorini sunset, smiling radiantly. Caption: "Sunset dinner with my love." I grabbed the iPad, hit record. "Mom just called," I said, my voice no longer shaking, just hollow. "She threatened to send me to boarding school if I tell anyone. She said I'm being dramatic." I paused, looking straight into the camera. "I'm not being dramatic. I'm starving. And she doesn't care." That night, I decided, if no one would believe me, I would have evidence that would make them believe. From day 18, I recorded videos systematically. Every morning, I woke up, grabbed the iPad, and started filming. Day 18. I opened the refrigerator, pointing the camera inside. 2 eggs left, half a loaf of bread. Ran out of milk yesterday. I filmed the bathroom scale. 84 pounds, down another pound from last week. I screenshot Mom's emails. Stop bothering me, I'm on vacation. And read them aloud on camera. I kept a written journal too, each page clearly marked, date, meals, how I felt. Day 19, ate 1 egg and half a pack of ramen. Mom posted a photo eating oysters in Monaco. Comment, living the dream. I'm living a nightmare. Day 20, stomach hurt all day, no food left. Mr. Harold brought a sandwich. Don't know how to thank him. Day 21, school emailed Mom. She didn't respond. Mr. Harold watched me getting weaker each day. You have to let me help, he said one evening, voice worried. I can't just stay quiet forever. You promised. I know. He sighed. But you're not okay. I'm going to call the school. I won't give details. I'll just tell them someone needs to check on you. I wanted to argue, but I was too tired. Okay, I said. But don't tell them your name. The next morning, Mrs. Patterson received an anonymous call. A concerned neighbor. A student named Sydney Mitchell needed checking on. She looked at the notes she'd been keeping. Dates. Symptoms. What I'd said. Everything she'd observed over the past 2 weeks. She knew she was a mandatory reporter. And she knew she couldn't stay silent any longer. Day 20, I received an email from the school. We need to speak with your parents. If we cannot reach them within 48 hours, we will be required to notify the authorities. The principal called Mom on the international emergency number. I wasn't there for that call. But later, Karen, the woman who would change everything, told me what happened. Mrs. Mitchell? This is Principal Davis from Westbrook Academy. What is it? Mom's voice was sweet, concerned mother mode activated. Did Sydney do something? We're concerned about Sydney's health. She's showing signs of malnutrition. Oh goodness, Sydney's being dramatic again. Mom laughed lightly. She's an imaginative child, you know. There's a babysitter staying with her, Mrs. Johnson. She comes by every day. Could you give us Mrs. Johnson's contact information? A beat of silence. Let me look it up. I'll send it right over. She never sent it. The principal waited 24 hours. No Mrs. Johnson's number. No one to verify. Meanwhile, the school nurse filed an official medical report. Sydney Mitchell, age 11, lost 9 lbas in 3 weeks. Signs of malnutrition. Parents unreachable. Investigation recommended. A mandatory report was submitted to Colorado Child Protective Services. A case was opened. A caseworker was assigned. Her name was Karen Oyalaran. That night, Mom sent me an email. Subject line empty. Just 1 paragraph. Sydney, I know the school called. If you say anything, if you embarrass me, I will tell them you're a lying child who needs psychiatric treatment. You'll be sent away, and no one will believe you. Understand? I read the email 3 times. Then I opened the iPad. Hit record. Today is day 22, I said, my voice calmer than I felt. Mom just emailed threatening to tell people I'm mentally ill if I tell the truth. I read the email aloud on camera, every single word. This is evidence, I said. I'm not lying, and I won't be silent anymore. Quick pause. If you're thinking, why didn't Sydney just call the police from the start? Remember, I was 11 years old. I'd been taught that parents are always right, that bothering people is bad, that if I was good enough, I'd be loved. It took 20 days of hunger to understand. No amount of being good would ever make them care. If this story is hitting close to home, Hit like and follow so you don't miss what happens next. All right, here's what happened after that. Day 22, Karen Oyalaran came to my door. I'd never met a CPS caseworker before. I expected someone cold, official, scary. Karen wasn't any of those things. She was a black woman in her 40s, wearing a simple blazer and kind eyes. She smiled when I opened the door. Hi, Sydney. My name is Karen. I'm from Child Protective Services. May I come in? I hesitated. Mom's voice echoed in my head. Don't bother anyone. Don't embarrass me. But I was so tired of being alone. Okay, I said. Karen stepped inside. Her eyes moved around the house, the dark living room, the pile of dishes I didn't know how to wash, the silence that hung in every corner. Your parents are in Europe? She asked gently. Yes, ma'am. 1 month. 8 more days until they come back. Who's been taking care of you? I looked at the floor. No one. Karen didn't react. No shock, no judgment. She just pulled out a small notebook and wrote something down. Can I see the kitchen, Sydney? I led her there. She opened the refrigerator, nearly empty. Just some condiments and a half-eaten loaf of bread Mr. Harold had brought. She looked at the trash can. Empty ramen wrappers. She looked at me. Thin, pale, dark circles under my eyes. Sydney, she said softly, do you have anything you want to show me? I don't know why I trusted her. Maybe because she was the first adult who asked instead of assumed. Maybe because I was desperate. I went to my room and came back with the iPad. I've been recording, I said. Every day. In case no one believed me. Karen took the iPad. She pressed play on one of the videos. Me standing in front of the empty refrigerator, reading the date, my voice shaking. When it ended, she looked at me. You're very brave, Sydney. These videos are important. Then she asked me a question no one had ever asked before. Sydney, do you want to be safe? For the first time, I said it out loud. Yes. Karen called Mom the next day. I wasn't in the room, but Karen told me everything afterward. Mrs. Mitchell, this is Karen Oyalaran from Colorado Child Protective Services. CPS? Mom's voice shifted, smooth, warm, the perfect concerned mother. Oh my goodness. Is Sydney all right? What happened? We've received reports of possible neglect. Your daughter has been alone for over 3 weeks. Alone? No, there must be a misunderstanding. Mom laughed lightly. Sydney has a babysitter, Mrs. Johnson. Lovely woman. She comes every day to check on her. I see. Could you provide Mrs. Johnson's contact information? Pause. Of course. Let me find it. I'll email it to you right away. She never did. Karen checked. There was no Mrs. Johnson in the neighborhood directory. No one by that name had visited our house. No one could confirm a babysitter existed, because she didn't. Karen filed a subpoena request for Mom's credit card statements, legal, official, through the proper channels. 3 days later, the bank sent the records. Karen sat me down and showed me a printed page. Numbers, dates, transactions. Sydney, she said carefully, your parents spent $47,312 in Europe this month. Hotels, restaurants, shopping. I stared at the numbers. The supplementary card they gave you? Karen continued. It was never activated. Not a single transaction. Because it couldn't be used. I knew. I'd always known. But seeing it written on paper, official, undeniable, was different. They spent almost $50,000 on their trip, Karen said quietly. And they left you with 20. I didn't cry. I thought I'd forgotten how. But something inside me cracked. What happens now? I asked. Karen closed the folder. Now, we make sure you're safe. And when your parents come home, there will be consequences. Mom called me the night after she spoke with Karen. I was at Mr. Harold's house. Karen had arranged for me to stay there temporarily while the investigation continued. Safe. Fed. But Mom didn't know that. My phone rang. International number. My stomach dropped. Hello? Sydney. Mom's voice was ice. What did you tell them? Mom, do you understand what you've done? She wasn't yelling anymore. That was worse. You're destroying this family. Everything I've built. Our reputation. Our life. For what? Because you couldn't handle being alone for a few weeks? I was starving, Mom. You were fine. Now she was shouting. I gave you money. I gave you a card. I gave you everything, and this is how you repay me? By calling the government on your own mother? I gripped the phone tighter. The card didn't work. You knew it didn't work. Silence. Sydney, listen to me. Her voice dropped. Dangerous. When I get back, you're going to tell them you exaggerated. You're going to say you wanted attention. You're going to fix this. Something shifted in me. Something that had been bending for 11 years finally stopped. No. Excuse me? I said no. My voice was steady. I'm not lying for you. I have videos, Mom. The empty refrigerator. My weight dropping. Your emails threatening me. Everything. Long pause. What videos? I recorded every day. The food I didn't have. The scale. Your Instagram posts from Monaco while I ate half a pack of ramen. All of it. Mom's breath caught. You're lying. I'm not. And I'm done protecting you. She hung up. I sat in Mr. Harold's kitchen, hands trembling, but not from fear anymore. 3 days later, Mom posted on Facebook. Coming home to my baby girl. Can't wait to throw a party and share our amazing trip with everyone. 40 people RSVP'd, and I knew that party would be where everything ended. The day before my parents returned, Karen came to Mr. Harold's house. She sat across from me at the kitchen table, folder in hand, face serious but kind. Sydney, I want you to know what's going to happen. I nodded, gripping my glass of water. We have enough evidence. The videos you recorded, the medical reports from school, the credit card statements, your mother's emails. She paused. When your parents return, there will be legal action. Legal action? They'll be charged with child endangerment. It's a felony in Colorado. Karen's voice was gentle but firm. The police will be involved. I swallowed. Will they go to jail? That depends on a lot of things. But at minimum, they'll be arrested and processed. And Sydney, you won't be going back to live with them. Not right now. I should have felt something. Relief, fear, anger. Instead, I just felt empty. When? I asked. Tomorrow? When they're home? Karen hesitated. Sydney, your mother is planning a party. A welcome home party, 40 guests. I knew. I'd seen the Facebook post. We've decided to execute the warrant at the party, Karen continued. Not to humiliate them, but because we know they'll be home, there will be witnesses for safety, and... She looked at me carefully. Sometimes, the truth needs to be seen. That night, I couldn't sleep. Mom was at the airport right now, probably complaining about the long flight, probably already planning her outfit for the party, probably thinking about the Instagram caption she'd write. She had no idea what was waiting for her. I looked out Mr. Harold's window at the street. Quiet. Dark. 2 police cars would be parked around the corner tomorrow. The day my parents came back, the Denver sky was perfectly clear. 40 guests were on their way, and so was the truth. The welcome home party started at 5 o'clock. From Mr. Harold's living room window, I watched cars pull up to my house, one after another. Neighbors, Mom's coworkers, friends from her book club, people who had liked her Instagram posts, people who believed in the perfect family. Through our front window, I could see the decorations, balloons, a banner that said, "Welcome home," a slideshow playing on the TV, photos from Europe probably. Mom stood in the living room, wearing a new dress she'd bought in Milan. Hair freshly done, smile radiant, working the room like she was born for it. "Diane, you look amazing. Tell us everything about the trip. We missed you so much." I watched her hug guests, laugh, gesture toward the slideshow, the Eiffel Tower, the Colosseum, Santorini sunsets, every photo a performance, every smile a lie. One guest asked something. I couldn't hear the words, but I could read Mom's lips. "Sydney? Oh, she's tired. Resting in her room." You know how kids are at this age. She didn't know I wasn't in my room. She didn't know I wasn't even in the house. I watched the slideshow change. Mom and Dad toasting champagne in Monaco. Mom shopping in Milan. Dad on a yacht somewhere blue and beautiful. Not a single photo of me. Mr. Harold sat beside me. "You okay, kiddo?" "I don't know," I said honestly. Then I saw it. A dark sedan pulled up at the corner, unmarked. Karen stepped out of the passenger side. Two uniformed officers got out of a second car behind her. Mr. Harold put a hand on my shoulder. On the TV inside my house, the slideshow ended. Mom raised her champagne glass, ready to make a toast. The doorbell rang. Mom opened the door with a smile already on her face, probably expecting another guest. The smile froze. Karen Oyalaran stood on the porch in her blazer holding a folder. Behind her, two police officers in full uniform, a woman named Officer Nguyen and a man named Officer Brooks. "Mrs. Mitchell." Karen's voice was calm, professional. "I'm Karen Oyalaran from Child Protective Services. These are Officers Nguyen and Brooks. We need to speak with you." Mom's face went through three expressions in 2 seconds. Confusion, recognition, fury. She settled on a tight smile. "I'm sorry, now isn't a good time. I'm hosting—" "Ma'am, this concerns the safety of your daughter." Behind Mom, the room had gone quiet. 40 pairs of eyes turned toward the door. The slideshow of Europe still played on the TV. Photos of the Colosseum cycling silently in the background. Mom tried to step outside, to close the door behind her. "Perhaps we can discuss this privately." Officer Nguyen spoke. "Mrs. Mitchell, we have a warrant. You and your husband are being charged with child endangerment under Colorado Revised Statute 186401. The words hung in the air. Someone in the crowd gasped. Whispers started. The champagne glasses stopped clinking. "That's ridiculous." Mom's voice was strained, but she was still performing, still smiling. "There's been a misunderstanding. Sydney is fine. She's upstairs right now." "Ma'am." Karen stepped forward. "Sydney is not upstairs. She's been in protective custody for the past 4 days." Mom's smile cracked. "What?" "Your daughter was found malnourished and alone. She documented everything." Karen held up the folder. "We have video evidence, medical records, and financial statements obtained through legal subpoena." The room was dead silent now. 40 guests stood frozen with champagne glasses in their hands, watching Diane Mitchell, the woman who had just shown them her Santorini sunset photos, being read her rights. Mom spun toward her guests, desperation cracking through her composure. "This is a misunderstanding." Her laugh was too high, too sharp. "Sydney is... She's an imaginative child. She makes things up. There was a babysitter—" "Mrs. Mitchell." Karen's voice cut through. "We've verified. There was no babysitter. No Mrs. Johnson. No one visited your daughter for 30 days. That's not... We also obtained your credit card statements through legal subpoena." Karen opened the folder, reading calmly. "You spent $47,312 during your trip. 5-star hotels, Michelin star restaurants, designer shopping." She looked up. "The supplementary card you left with Sydney was never activated. She couldn't use it. You left an 11-year-old with $20 in cash for an entire month." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Dad, Greg, stood frozen near the TV, face white as paper. He hadn't said a word since the police arrived. "Greg?" One of his coworkers stepped toward him. "Is this true?" He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. A woman in the back, Mrs. Patterson, my teacher, who had been invited because she was a neighbor, stepped forward. "I'm Sydney's teacher," she said, voice steady. "I'm the one who filed the mandatory report. I watched that child come to school hungry, exhausted, wearing the same clothes for days. What you're hearing is an exaggeration. It's what happened." Mom turned on her. "You? You did this?" "No, Mrs. Mitchell." Mrs. Patterson didn't flinch. "You did this." The room went silent. Then Officer Nguyen stepped forward with handcuffs. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law?" Mom's legs buckled. "No. No, wait, this can't." Karen looked at Officer Brooks and nodded. "Play it." On the TV, the slideshow disappeared. A video took its place. My face. My voice. Today is day 15. The refrigerator has 1 egg and expired milk. I have $3 left. Mom is in Monaco. My voice filled the living room. On the TV screen, I stood in front of our refrigerator. The same refrigerator these guests had walked past to get their champagne. I opened it on camera. Nearly empty. A single egg. A carton of milk with an expiration date that had passed. "Today is day 15, Video Me said, voice thin and tired. "I don't know how much longer I can do this." The camera showed the bathroom scale. 83 pounds, down from 92 when my parents left. Mom posted a photo from Monaco today. She's eating at a restaurant that costs $300 a plate. My voice cracked. I ate half a pack of ramen. It was the last one. Someone in the crowd, a woman in a blue dress, covered her mouth. The video changed. Day 18. I was reading Mom's email aloud. "Is, stop being dramatic, Sydney. You have everything you need. Don't call me again." My voice was hollow. She wrote this while I was hungry enough to feel dizzy. Another video. Day 22. The email where Mom threatened to call me mentally ill. I watched the room from Mr. Harold's window. I couldn't hear the video from here, but I could see the guests' faces. Horror, disgust, disbelief. Mom was screaming now. "Turn it off! She's lying! She's—" "Mrs. Mitchell." Karen's voice was steady. "These videos were recorded by your daughter on the iPad you gave her. They are date-stamped. They match the medical records from her school. They are evidence." Mrs. Patterson spoke again, addressing the room. "I saw Sydney at school. The weight loss, the exhaustion, the unwashed clothes, it all matches what you're seeing." Mom looked around wildly, at her co-workers, her neighbors, her book club friends. No one would meet her eyes. Even Dad had stepped back from her. I watched my mother standing alone in a room full of people who finally saw the truth. I knew the exact moment it hit her. Mom's face went through every stage: denial, bargaining, rage, before settling on something I'd never seen from her before. Fear. She looked at the screen where my video was still playing. She looked at the 40 guests, their champagne glasses now lowered, their faces stony. She looked at the police officers with handcuffs ready, and then she said the words I'll never forget. The words from the beginning of this story. "No." Her voice was a whisper at first, then louder. "No, no, this can't be happening." But it was. Dad tried to speak. "Diane, maybe we should—" "Shut up." She spun on him, mascara starting to run. "This is your fault. You never paid attention to her. You never—" "My fault." Dad's voice cracked. "This trip was your idea. You said she'd be fine. You said—" "I said she was old enough. She's 11. She should be able to—" "To what?" The voice came from the back of the room. An older woman stepped forward. Martha Keller. She'd known Mom for years, sold her home insurance, attended her dinner parties, commented "gorgeous" on every Instagram post. Mrs. Keller's face was hard now. To what, Diane? Starve? Feed herself on $20 for a month while you ate oysters in Monaco? She shook her head slowly. I've known you for 15 years. I thought I knew who you were. Mom's mouth opened, closed. No words came out. For the first time in her life, Diane Mitchell had no performance left to give. Officer Nguyen stepped forward. Ma'am, sir, you need to come with us now. Mom looked around one more time, searching for an ally, a defender, anyone. The room looked back at her with 40 pairs of eyes that had finally stopped believing. No one moved. No one spoke. No one saved her. They walked my parents out the front door in handcuffs. Not dragged, not screaming, just walked. Mom's face was blank, like she'd left her body somewhere between the living room and the porch. Dad kept his head down, unable to look at anyone. The guests parted to let them through. No one said goodbye. No one offered support. No one stepped forward to say, there must be a mistake. Outside, neighbors had started gathering on their porches. Word travels fast in suburbs. Mrs. Chen from across the street. The Petersons from the corner. The family with the golden retriever who always waved at me. They watched in silence as my parents were guided into the back of a police car. Through Mr. Harold's window, I saw Mom pause before getting in. For 1 second, she looked up. At our house. At the welcome home banner still hanging in the window. At everything she was about to lose. Then the officer's hand guided her head down and she disappeared into the back seat. The car pulled away. I kept watching until the red taillights vanished around the corner. Mr. Harold stood beside me. He didn't say anything. Just put a hand on my shoulder. Back at my house, the party was over. Guests were leaving quickly, quietly, heads down. No one wanted to be associated with what they'd just witnessed. The champagne sat untouched. The slideshow had been turned off. The welcome home banner fluttered in the breeze from the open door. Karen appeared on Mr. Harold's porch a few minutes later. She knocked softly. Sydney? She stepped inside. How are you feeling? I thought about it. I can breathe, I said finally. For the first time in a month, I can actually breathe. Karen nodded. That's a start. Outside, the streetlights flickered on. The police cars were gone. The neighbors had gone back inside. And I was still here. Before I continue, I know some of you are thinking, does Sydney regret it? She's still her mother after all. The short answer, no. I don't regret telling the truth. I didn't destroy my family. My mother destroyed it long before I ever opened my mouth. I just stopped covering for her. If you're in a similar situation, if you're wondering whether you have the right to speak up, the answer is yes, you do. Hit like and follow to hear how this ends. Now, here's what happened after the arrest. The day after the arrest, Aunt Ruth appeared. I was sitting at Mr. Harold's kitchen table, eating scrambled eggs. Real scrambled eggs with cheese and toast, when there was a knock at the door. Mr. Harold answered it. A woman stood on the porch, mid-30s. Brown hair like Mom's, but softer. Tired eyes, but kind. She was wearing jeans and a simple sweater. No designer labels, no perfect Instagram aesthetic. I'm looking for Sydney, she said. I'm her aunt. Ruth Delaney. I froze. Aunt Ruth. The aunt Mom hadn't spoken to in 5 years. The aunt whose name made Mom's jaw clench whenever it came up. Mr. Harold looked at me. I nodded. Ruth stepped inside. The moment she saw me, her eyes filled with tears. Oh, sweetheart. She crossed the room and wrapped her arms around me. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't come sooner. I didn't know it was this bad. I stood stiff at first. I wasn't used to being hugged. Then something broke inside me, and I hugged her back. How did you know? I asked, voice muffled against her shoulder. Mrs. Patterson called me. She found my number in an old emergency contact file from years ago. Ruth pulled back, looking at me. I came as fast as I could. We sat at the table. Ruth held my hands while she talked. Your mom and I stopped speaking 5 years ago. Do you know why? I shook my head. Because I told her the truth. Ruth's voice was sad but steady. I told her she was more obsessed with her image than with actually loving you. She didn't want to hear it. So she cut me off. She squeezed my hands. Sydney, what happened to you is not your fault. Your mother was wrong. And now you have me. I looked at this woman. This stranger who shared my blood but had been erased from my life. You barely know me, I whispered. Then let's change that. She smiled. I've already filed for temporary guardianship. CPS approved it this morning. For the first time in weeks, I felt something that wasn't hunger or fear or exhaustion. I felt hope. The legal system moved fast. Mom and Dad were charged with child endangerment, a Class 3 felony in Colorado. They posted bail, but the conditions were strict. No contact with me. Not a phone call. Not a text. Not even through a lawyer without CPS approval. The evidence was overwhelming. My video diary, 22 recordings, date stamped, showing the empty refrigerator, the bathroom scale, my gaunt face reading Mom's threatening emails aloud. The school's medical report, 9 pounds lost in 3 weeks. Signs of malnutrition documented by a licensed nurse. The credit card statements, 47,112 dollars spent in Europe, 5-star hotels, Michelin restaurants, designer shopping in Milan. Meanwhile, the supplementary card they'd given me showed 0 transactions, because it had never been activated. Mom's own emails. Stop being dramatic. Don't call me again. I'll tell them you're mentally ill. Their lawyer tried to spin it. A misunderstanding. An oversight. The parents believed arrangements had been made. But you can't argue with timestamps. You can't negotiate with bank records. You can't explain away a child who lost 9 pounds while her mother ate oysters in Monaco. The news spread through Denver like wildfire. Couple spends $47K on European vacation, leaves 11-year-old with $20. Mom's real estate company let her go within a week. We can't have this kind of publicity, they said. Dad was put on administrative review at his firm. Their names were in the papers, on local news, shared in Facebook groups. The Instagram account, the one with 12,000 followers, the one full of blessed and grateful, was deleted. But screenshots had already spread everywhere. A week after the arrest, Mom called me through her lawyer's number. Sydney. Her voice was strange, smaller. If you take back what you said, if you tell them you exaggerated, we can fix this. I promise I'll change. I held the phone for a long moment. Then I answered. Mom. My voice was calm, steady. Nothing like the scared 11-year-old who had begged for food 3 weeks ago. I have 22 videos. I have your emails. I have the credit card statements that CPS subpoenaed from the bank. I have the school nurse, my teacher, my neighbor, and a caseworker who all saw what you did. Silence on the other end. You had a month to change, I continued. Every time I called, you told me I was being dramatic. You threatened to send me away. You spent $47,000 on yourself while I ate half a pack of ramen a day. Sydney, I'm not finished. The words came from somewhere deep, somewhere that had been silent for 11 years. You didn't forget to activate that card. You didn't forget to arrange someone to watch me. You just didn't care. I wasn't part of the vacation. I wasn't part of the Instagram photos. I wasn't part of anything. Because to you, I was never really part of this family. I heard her breath catch. I don't hate you, Mom. And I meant it. Hate would require energy I didn't have. But I won't lie for you, and I won't talk to you again until I'm 18 and I can decide for myself. Sydney, please. Goodbye, Mom. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from something else. Something that felt like freedom. Ruth was standing in the doorway. She'd heard everything. Are you okay? She asked softly. I thought about it. I think so. I looked at the phone in my hand. I think I just said everything I needed to say. Ruth crossed the room and hugged me. I'm proud of you, she whispered. That was the hardest thing, and you did it. I didn't cry, but I held on tight. That was the last time I heard my mother's voice for 7 years. 6 months later, we went to court. I wasn't there. Ruth and Karen agreed it would be better for me to stay home, to hear the result afterward rather than watch my parents stand before a judge. But Karen told me everything. Mom and Dad took a plea deal to avoid a trial. Their lawyer had advised them. The evidence was too strong, the public sentiment too damning. A trial would only make it worse. The sentence, 2 years probation, 200 hours of community service, and a permanent mark on their records. Child endangerment, a felony conviction that would follow them forever. But that wasn't the real punishment. The judge revoked their parental rights, permanently. Parents have a sacred duty to protect their children, the judge said, according to Karen. You chose a luxury vacation over your daughter's safety. You left an 11-year-old alone for 30 days with $20 and a credit card you knew didn't work. This court cannot, in good conscience, return this child to your care. Ruth's guardianship became permanent that same day. I was officially hers. Mom cried in the courtroom. Not quiet tears, heaving sobs that echoed off the walls. But Karen said it didn't feel like remorse. It felt like grief for her reputation, her image, the life she'd built on Instagram likes and dinner party compliments. Dad said nothing. He'd barely spoken since the arrest. Just a hollow man in a suit, watching everything collapse. After the hearing, Karen came to Ruth's apartment with paperwork. It's done, she said. You're safe now, Sydney. Legally, permanently safe. She handed me an envelope. Your mother wrote you a letter. She asked the judge to pass it along. Karen paused. You don't have to read it. Not now. Not ever, if you don't want to. I took the envelope. It was heavy in my hands. I'll decide later, I said. I put the letter in my desk drawer. It stayed there for 7 years. Life with Aunt Ruth was different. She lived in a small apartment in Boulder. No 2-story house, no perfectly trimmed lawn, no Instagram-worthy aesthetic. Just 2 bedrooms, a kitchen with mismatched plates, and a couch that had seen better days. It was the warmest place I'd ever lived. This is your room, Ruth said on my first day, opening a door to a small space with a twin bed and an empty bookshelf. I know it's not much, but we can decorate it however you want. Your choice. My choice. I'd never been asked what I wanted. We ate dinner together every night. Not fancy dinners, sometimes just pasta with jarred sauce or grilled cheese and tomato soup. But Ruth sat across from me, asked about my day, actually listened to the answers. I'm not perfect, Sydney, she told me one evening. I'll make mistakes. But I promise you 2 things. I'll always be here, and I'll always listen. I didn't know what to do with that promise. Part of me kept waiting for her to leave, to get tired of me, to decide I was too much trouble. She never did. 3 weeks in, I came downstairs and saw something on the kitchen calendar. Ruth had written in purple marker, Sydney's basketball tryouts, 3 p.m. I stared at it. Mom had never written my events on a calendar. She'd never known when tryouts were, or recitals, or parent-teacher conferences. Half the time, she forgot to pick me up. You remembered, I said. Ruth looked up from her coffee. Of course I did. I want to be there, if that's okay with you. Something cracked open in my chest. Yeah, I whispered. That's okay. She smiled, and for the first time, I let myself believe that this was real, that she wasn't going to disappear. It took a year to trust that Ruth would stay. It took 2 years to stop checking the refrigerator every morning, just to make sure there was food. But slowly, I started to heal. 6 months after the sentencing, I learned about the money. Ruth sat me down one Saturday morning, a folder of documents on the table between us. Sydney, there's something you need to know about your grandmother's estate. I blinked. Grandma Eleanor had died when I was 7. I barely remembered her. She left a college fund in your name. Your parents couldn't touch the principal, but they were supposed to manage it for you until you turned 18. Ruth opened the folder. As part of the court proceedings, that fund has been transferred to a trust supervised by the court. Neither your mother nor your father can access it anymore. I looked at the number on the page. It was more money than I'd ever imagined. This is mine, yours, for college, for your future. Ruth's voice was firm. No one, not me, not anyone, can use it without the court's approval until you're an adult. I thought about Mom's shopping sprees in Milan, the 5-star hotels, the $47,000 spent in a month while I rationed ramen. Could they have used this before? I asked quietly. Grandma's money? Ruth hesitated. The principal was protected, but they had some access to the interest and… She sighed. Let's just say the court reviewed everything. They won't have access to anything of yours ever again. I sat with that for a moment. What happened to their house? I asked. They sold it. Had to. Legal fees, the settlement, the costs of everything. Ruth closed the folder. They moved out of state. I don't know exactly where, and I don't need to. I nodded slowly. I didn't feel happy about them losing the house, but I didn't feel sad either. It was just consequences. Actions have consequences, even for parents, especially for parents. Thank you, I said to Ruth, for protecting this, for protecting me. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. That's what family does, sweetheart. The real kind. By the time I was 13, I had clear boundaries. No direct contact with Mom or Dad. Every message, every request had to go through Karen or a lawyer. No phone calls, no surprise visits, no running into each other at the grocery store. The first year, Mom tried. Letters forwarded through her attorney. Requests to Karen for just a short phone call. Once, she showed up at Ruth's apartment building. The security guard turned her away. Each time, I said no. My therapist, Dr. Reeves, who Ruth had found for me, helped me understand why. You're not punishing them, Sydney, she said during one of our sessions. You're protecting yourself. There's a difference. But she's my mother. I picked at the edge of the couch cushion. Isn't there some rule that says I have to forgive her? Dr. Reeves leaned forward. Forgiveness isn't something you owe anyone. It's a choice you make for yourself when you're ready. If you're ever ready. She paused. And even if you do forgive someone someday, that doesn't mean you have to let them back into your life. I thought about that for a long time. So, I can forgive her without seeing her? You can forgive her without ever speaking to her again, if that's what you need. Forgiveness isn't a ticket that lets someone back into your life. It's just letting go of the weight. For yourself. I nodded slowly. I'm not ready, I said. Not yet. That's okay. Dr. Reeves smiled gently. You don't have to be. 7 years later, I received a letter. Not through a lawyer this time. Just a plain envelope in the mailbox, forwarded from an address I didn't recognize. The return address was in Arizona. Mom's handwriting. I held the envelope for a long time before I opened it. I was 18 when I finally read both letters. It was August. I was packing for college. Full scholarship, pre-law program, a future I'd built myself. My dorm room was waiting. My new life was waiting. But first, I needed to close this chapter. I sat on my bed in Ruth's apartment, my room now, with posters on the walls and photos of me and Ruth at basketball games, and my bookshelf full of worn paperbacks. I had both envelopes in my hands. The first was from 7 years ago, the one Mom had written after sentencing. I opened it. Sydney. I know I was wrong. I don't know how to apologize because no one ever taught me how. My mother left me too, you know? Left me with relatives for months at a time while she traveled with her new husband. I thought that was normal. I thought children were supposed to be fine on their own. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I don't deserve that. I just want you to know that I'm in therapy now. I'm trying to understand why I am the way I am. And if you ever want to talk, I'll wait, however long it takes. Mom, I read it twice. Then I opened the second letter, the one from a few months ago. Sydney, I heard you got into college, full scholarship. I'm proud of you, even though I have no right to be. You did that yourself, despite everything. I'm still in therapy. I'm still trying. I don't know if I'll ever be the mother you deserved, but I'm trying to be a better person. I won't ask to see you, but I wanted you to know. I'm sorry. Truly. Mom. I put both letters down. Ruth appeared in my doorway. You okay, kiddo? I thought about it. I don't know if I believe her, I said honestly. I don't know if she really changed. You don't have to decide right now. I know. I folded the letters, put them back in their envelopes. But I think I might be okay not knowing. At least for now. Ruth nodded. That's more than enough. I didn't write back. Maybe someday I would. Maybe not. But for the first time, it felt like my choice. And only my choice. The day I left for college, I stood on the campus quad and looked back at everything. Not physically. Ruth had already driven home, waving from her car with tears in her eyes and a proud smile on her face. But in my mind, I traced the path that had brought me here. I remembered the 11-year-old girl sitting in an empty kitchen, counting $20, wondering if she could survive a month. I remembered filming myself in front of an empty refrigerator, voice shaking, not knowing if anyone would ever see those videos. I remembered Karen asking, "Do you want to be safe?" and realizing it was the first time anyone had given me a choice. I remembered Ruth showing up at Mr. Harold's door, a stranger who became family. I remembered standing in that kitchen, phone in hand, telling my mother, "I won't lie for you. 7 years. 7 years since that summer." And here I was, healthy, educated, whole. Not because someone rescued me, because I rescued myself. I'd been taught that speaking up was betrayal, that silence was loyalty, that good children didn't cause trouble. It took starving alone in my own house to understand the truth. Silence doesn't protect you. It only protects the people who hurt you. I looked around the quad, students laughing, carrying boxes, starting new chapters. My chapter. My life. I pulled out my phone and texted Ruth. "Made it. Room's nice. Thank you for everything." She replied instantly, "So proud of you. Always." I smiled. Someone behind me asked directions to the library, a girl about my age, looking lost. I pointed her the right way, and we ended up walking together, talking about majors and hometowns and hope. The past didn't disappear. It never would. But it didn't own me anymore. People ask me sometimes, if you could go back, would you do anything differently? The answer is always the same. No. I don't regret telling the truth. I don't regret the videos, the reports, the day the police walked into my mother's perfect party. I don't regret standing in that kitchen and telling her I wouldn't lie. The only thing I regret is that I had to wait until I was starving to understand that I deserved better. If you're listening to this and you recognize something, if you grew up invisible, if you were the scapegoat, if you learned to shrink yourself to fit someone else's comfort, I want you to know, speaking up is not betrayal. Setting boundaries is not cruelty. You are allowed to protect yourself, even from the people who were supposed to protect you. My mother left me with $20 and a card that didn't work. She thought I would be too scared, too obedient, too desperate for her love to ever speak up. She was wrong. I survived that month. I documented every day. I let the truth speak for itself. And when the consequences came, when she stood in her own living room, surrounded by her perfect guests, watching her perfect image shatter, that wasn't revenge. It was just reality catching up. Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up. Ruth showed up. Mr. Harold showed up. Mrs. Patterson and Karen showed up. The people who love you will never ask you to starve for them. My parents left me with $20 and a locked credit card. But I walked away with something they could never give me: the truth, my boundaries, and a life that belongs to me. And that is the only happy ending I need. Thank you for staying until the end. If my story reached you, if you've ever felt invisible in your own family, if you've ever wondered whether you had the right to speak up, I hope you know now. You do. You always did. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss stories like this. Check the description for the next video. Another story about truth, boundaries, and finding your way out. See you in the next one.